How we doing, guys? Good. All right, guys, last week we talked about had kind of been start and stop a little bit to the start of the season and the open dates and the extra day after South Dakota. I mean, that conversation's over now. I mean, it is full on. As you know, today is really like a Tuesday for us as far as preparation. So we played the game Saturday. We brought everybody back in yesterday, which was Sunday. We did watch the entire San Jose State tape. Then we started on Boise State. We actually went on the field a little bit last night for about a half an hour. And then we just finished practice here this morning. So definitely the pace is full on in-season mode. You look at the next 2 weeks, we have two undefeated football teams. Boise right now is 4-0. I believe Air Force is 3-0 or 4-0. Beat Navy in an impressive win, Navy coming off an open date. So the next 2 weeks, we've got obviously big challenges, but also, produces big opportunities. So with that, I'm sure you guys have some questions. So Rick, you want to start it out?
Does it matter that Dakota only had one tackle, and did they do anything special to take him out or anything?
It's interesting. I didn't even realize that myself until you just said that. I'm trying to think back. The surprising part of the San Jose State game was they were a big power football team, a double down, kick out, power play team, which we had practiced a lot. And they do it a lot off of different presentations where it's the jet sweep action. They'd flip tight end, so on and so forth, but they'd run an off-tackle play. That's kind of one of the staples of that offense. And surprisingly, they ran one of those powers in the entire game. And then in the second half, as you know, it really became kind of a pass game, particularly when I think 34 got hurt in the first half, and then we were up in the second half. So nothing specific, nothing that really even came to our attention other than, thinking about it right now, ask that question for the first time. That would be the only thing that I could see. It was a little bit unconventional kind of game, and there ended up being a lot more throwing in the second half. They only had 56 plays, I think, the entire game, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact reason.
Do you like Friday games, or would you rather not be playing Friday?
I think they're better than Tuesday night or Wednesday night games, like the MAC plays a lot of. So I promise you that. I think it's an opportunity because of reduced television games on Friday night. So in some ways, from a television standpoint, it probably is a lot more beneficial, a lot more rewarding than it is maybe at home, particularly in our situation. I believe Cleveland and Rio Rancho play Friday night, I believe. I think every situation specific. I think for us to have a true nationally televised game with CBS Sports. I know Aaron Taylor's coming in and doing this game. It's a big game for them. I think that probably weighs over to, I think it's a good idea.
How much of a challenge is it going to be to slow that offense?
Yeah, they're a great offensive team. I think you guys know that. I don't need to stand up here and give them any credibility that you need to hear. You already know that. When you say Boise, right away you think of year in and year out, going back a long time. Very explosive offenses. Certainly it's taken a long time to get that whole package together. And they actually have continuity to a degree. I mean, that offense has really stayed the same. They got into a little bit more spread type offense late in the Chris Peterson era, but they still have all the flipping of personnel. They still have the different personnel groups. They still have the deceptive plays that they execute at a very high level. I mean, their bank of deceptive plays is better than anybody's in the country. They do a tremendous job. You look at how many different guys have thrown passes, how many guys have lined up as wildcat quarterback in there. Most teams have one guy that can do some different things. They have multiple guys in multiple packages. So, they create the absolute biggest challenge you have all year. The one thing that helps just a little bit within the college football world San Jose State schematically had some of the elements that Boise State has. And that's unusual, because you're in such a true spread era across college football that at least back-to-back weeks from the standpoint of there's a tight end, there's a fullback, there's shifting tight ends. There's some of that same carryover from last week.
So it's kind of like practice against them to get ready.
I think so. As much as there can be in college football. I mean, they're not exactly the same. But conceptually, there's some of the same elements there. So it's not like, okay, like next week we're standing here going from San Jose, Boise to Air Force defensively. I mean, that's really what college football is. But there are some similarities in the West Coast kind of style of San Jose and Boise.
Their defense has been really good through 4 games as well. Do you see any differences there from last year?
They've got about 5 starters back. A lot of those guys, though, are experienced guys. I think, schematically, again, we really don't know what to expect. For what it's worth, we read back in the spring or summer, there were a couple articles of them emphasizing, practicing against option football in the spring and the summer. Certainly that doesn't help us any as far as schematically. Their defensive coordinator did leave and go to Arizona, but they retained a coach who was on the staff, so they've got a lot of continuity across the board. So again, it's another week where you're not sure how they'll play us, so certainly there'll be some adjustment, but the numbers jump out at you without a doubt, particularly the rushing defense statistics.
How would you evaluate Lamar's performance, and what does he need to improve on this week going to Boise?
Yeah, Lamar, again, at times, like in most games we've played, is the guy that's really hard to tackle. And he can create plays that break down a little bit. And Lamar did a good job with that again. I mean, you felt Lamar's speed, even though he didn't rush for a lot of yards, particularly on the 3rd down and 8, I think, when he scrambled and made the first down there late in the game. Made a couple mistakes. The interception was bad. One time he kind of created and pitched the ball off a zone read, which we don't even have that element of it. So there's always a little bit of taking the bad with the good, because he is kind of a point guard and kind of a creator of plays. He's got to get better. We know we have to throw the football. Again, last year against them, we ran it pretty good, but Austin Apodaca provided some big throws against them too. We had Delane Hart last year that went up and made a play. Austin came out of there and threw a great play on the wheel route. So to answer your question, I thought Lamar did good. We had 446 yards rushing on offense, which is unbelievable. Certainly he's a big piece of that, even though he didn't rush like he does sometimes for over 100 yards. But he still has to continue to polish his game. And if there is an unexpected, it has to be a positive unexpected, not a negative unexpected when he's trying to create something.
Aaron Jenkins wasn't suited up today. Is he
He's going to be okay. He's fine, yeah.
Go ahead. Thanks, Jim. Morning. Well, Lamar only attempted 8 passes. We have a strong running game, so you sure go with the rush if that's working for you. But can Lamar throw? And if we need to open it up on Friday, are you comfortable doing that?
Yeah, that's kind of a continuing storyline. He did throw it good against Rutgers to a degree. It was a little bit different kind of thing because they played press man-to-man. He had some kind of underthrown or back shoulder fades in there. Yeah, Lamar can throw it, and we're comfortable, but not as comfortable as Austin. And let's be honest, if we get in a throwing kind of game, I don't think we're going to win that one. So it's still the same plan as that's been. There's no secret when Lamar's in there. We are a true triple option team. I said that last week. How many times we throw it probably depends on what the score of that game is and how much success we're having running it. So we kind of are what we are, and we particularly are what we are when Lamar's in there. So, again, we'll throw it a little bit more by choice, but if we have to throw it more because we have to, it probably doesn't bode well for us. From a pass protection standpoint, too, as well. We struggled a little bit, in there, particularly at guard against San Jose, from a pass protection standpoint. So it's a combination of not just Lamar, it's a little bit of that offensive line too.
So as a strategy, are you hoping to be able to run and maybe have some ball control? Because if they don't have the ball, they can't score.
Oh,
If you run the ball
man.
and keep it run, we got a chance then? Is that what
Yeah,
you assume?
yeah. Can I send that order in? I'm gonna send that in right now. I'm gonna put that, I told you that. I mean, I thought that Saturday night after our game was over. I'm gonna send in that ball control card. See if Brian Harsin in Boise agrees with that. Yeah, absolutely, man. We're gonna try to keep that ball and keep their offense on the sideline. Again, time of possession, particularly when you give up big plays on defense, is not a huge factor. But yeah, I mean, there's no secret of that's what we are. That's what this program is. That's what this program has been as we've tried to build this thing, is run the ball, control the ball, try to grow as a defense.
You said the guards didn't pass protect very well. Does Grandma stay in there? Or
Yeah, we're gonna probably rotate more. We're gonna probably rotate 3 guards in there, and really Aaron Jenkins, and probably rotate 2 guards in there with Chris Lewis and Charlie Grammel. Grammel's a young guy, redshirt freshman. Had his hands full a couple times on pass protection. He's still not the biggest, strongest guy like Chris is. And interesting, you guys can probably check their 2 deep. I don't know if they have maybe 15 offensive linemen on the 2 deep, 3 deep, and it's in our notes. Every one of those players has been redshirted. Every single player on those offense and really defensive lines have been redshirted at Boise State. And again, that's one of those things that you have great respect for, and also you realize how important that is. But that's pretty impressive. And you look across at us, it doesn't look that way. We've got we've got some guys that have been thrown into the heat of the battle early. We still haven't got it built to the point that on our 2 deep, 3 deep, you see redshirt. Boise's skill guys, some of them have played earlier, but those linemen now, they're redshirt, and that's impressive to me. This year we have reached out farther than we've ever done as far as redshirting guys. And you brought up the question a couple weeks ago about the defensive line. Absolutely, we have 3 defensive linemen and rush linebacker that I think, could be in that mix to a degree right now. So not to get into the whole redshirt thing, but I mean, that jumped out at me now, looking at Boise's personnel. It's impressive.
How's the rest of the health of the team? Do you expect usual suspects to be playing, or do you expect?
I think Boatwright will be another week. I don't think he's going to be back for Boise. Other than that, I think Cole Gauchi's going to be okay. He was back out there today from the back spasm, so I anticipate he'll play. Matt Quarles is a little sore, but he's much better than he was a week ago. I think he'll be able to go and play. He played a little bit in the game. Woodhouse was back out there today, so I think we're going to be okay by Friday.
Gift for the hamstring?
Yeah, Gipp in the second half just tweaked it a little bit, and we decided not to put him back in. Hopefully he's going to be okay. It's not a bad hamstring, but it's something we're going to have to really be careful this week with.
Is Gentry going to play this week? Or is...
We're going to see. We do have a little competition going right now. I thought Corey responded well Saturday against San Jose. He really did. And now he paled by comparison to that kid that was punting for San Jose. I mean, that was unbelievable.
Does Sam go back to Holton?
I think we're going to stay with Corey. Our operation time on that 44-yard field goal, 45-yard field goal, our operation time has been really good. I mean, that thing was about as good as just operation, snap, catch, hold, kick, as you could have. So I think we'll stay with Corey.
Anything you saw on defense and film that you can correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think the frustration is the frustration of there are some really good things. And you go back and look at the tape and you see that, quite honestly, on the big run early, the 75-yard touchdown, And on the jet sweep run for the touchdown that was 21 yards, there was a little bit of indecision in adjustments, particularly from a secondary end, where there was just a little bit of hesitation and our cleats weren't really in the ground when the ball was snapped. And that got us twice. There was one other time on the big pass down the field to number 2. Almost the same New Mexico State scenario, not by what the call was this time at all, but still a little bit of just hesitation. And we're kind of between coverages right there, and it got us again. And then, it's the same thing. There's a lot of good. The first series was 3 and out. The first series of the second half was 3 and out. There were 3 and outs in the fourth quarter, I believe, when momentum was kind of turned. We scored on defense. We had 3 sacks. We had 7 tackles for loss. We knocked the quarterback down 18 times. And we could say the same thing to Mexico State, Rutgers, and really South Dakota and San Jose. There's good in there. There's so much good that you want to feel like you're close. But there's still that little hesitation that caused us to, all of a sudden, there it is. And again, you guys know this. When you don't have a just dominator, when you don't have a dominator or 2 or 3 or 4 dominators, you're playing that game like a lot of people in this country that it has to be perfect. And the offense, because the offense has changed week to week, win that battle, right? Win the battle. Just like our offense won that battle against San Jose. That picture for San Jose changed. Our picture changed because San Jose does some different things. Rutgers did something in the stack right there that was a little bit different on the big touchdown pass. And offenses are ahead when that picture changes. And that's the world we live in. That's why there's, you look at the University of Notre Dame, you look at the University of Texas, they just made changes with 2 really, really good defensive coordinators. Both of those guys very well respected. That's why. And nobody's changed offensive coordinators yet, right? It's a battle. And this thing escalates now. We're going Boise State Air Force now. But I'm excited about our kids. I'm excited about the enthusiasm and the attitude they take towards getting better. I think we've done a good job of explaining. It's not like the sky's falling in. It's that we, from a positive standpoint, have to get better. And all of us have to take our frustrations to get better, not our frustrations to just hang our head, starting with me, because that stuff eats at you. When you have momentum in a game and all of a sudden there's a big play. We got to realize what this game is now. I don't think we're going to shut Boise out, right? I do think Boise will make a few plays. So let's all keep this in perspective here as we just fight to win a game.
On the long touchdown, it looked like a 3-man rush. Were you in quarters?
Which one?
On the long touchdown to San Jose State.
To number 2 up the seam. Here's what we were in a 4-man rush, but they had the back offset to the tight end side into the boundary. So the rusher came off because they peeled that back out there. It's kind of like they peeled a route. They motioned across, and we were late adjusting. We were in quarters, but there's some variations of quarters within quarter coverage. And that's what's happening in college football really across the board is that, quarters used to be a pretty simple coverage where you really played 4 deep almost. But because of different formations, you have to have adjustments within that quarters to all these different formations. And you end up hesitating or you end up busting, you might as well be in man. You're probably better off in man a lot of times. That's what's gotten us several times, is just adjusting quarter coverages to the exact formation people are in. And we get to it, but there's a little hesitation because you're creating different formations a lot. There's something, how many times did you practice this? Well, how many times have they done this? Well, not many. That's the challenge right now. That's the challenge. And then there's another challenge being a blitzing defense. When we do blitz, there's certain formations, you're really high risk if you blitz that formation, right? So you make the decision, do you stay in that blitz or do you get out of that blitz? That's the world we're living in, and that margin for error is very small. And it's a challenge. It's really a challenge, and you know, what makes this frustrating, but it also makes it, kids come in there with their eyes wide open every day because they know it's full-on learning now. I mean, they know what the problems are, and you're trying to get them solved. But I'm going to finish you. I don't want to give you a clinic. How do you be one step ahead with those problems instead of one step behind? And it's continuing to have experience. It's continuing to be able to redshirt guys. It's continuing to be able to play the same defenses year after year. You know, it's not that knee-jerk deal of, oh, God, let's quit doing what we're doing. Everybody's having problems. I think we're second or third in the Mountain West Conference in yards per game on defense right now, whatever that's worth. You know, so keep grinding, man.
And last year was the same night you beat Boise was the night Holly Holm won her big fight, which made it just a pretty special night around here. I mean, do you ever think back about that night and everything that happened and just think about how like, it was like a turning point for the state where things started to feel good?
Yeah, it was in the game itself. Have you ever been in a game? I've never been in a game. I think they snapped the ball 115 times against us in that game and threw it 72 times. They threw 75 passes in that game in 115 snaps. And Markel Byrd makes that tackle at the end of that game. I mean, you know, how do you write that one? So it was an unbelievable game. And to be honest, that's why our challenge this year is even greater than it was last year. You know, that happened last year. So everybody's eyes are wide open coming into this one. And they did drop some balls, and they did have some opportunities. But, you know, they did have 115 plays, too. And we kept hanging in there, and we kept hanging in there. And that's one thing I'll say about this team, and I hope people appreciate this. There's a lot of fight in this team now. There's a lot of fight in this team. And you could look and, you know, I've brought it up about our defense. But if you look at these second halves of these games, there's been some dire situations from a field position standpoint at Rutgers, and they kept playing. There were some dire situations Saturday against San Jose in that fourth quarter, and they kept playing. So that piece of it I never take for granted, that they keep fighting and they keep playing. And that's the thing I'm probably most proud of. You know, from a culture standpoint, we've got the culture now. You know, so anyhow, that was an absolute crazy game up there last year.
I just want to go back to the herky-jerky just for a minute. Noticing that you've had one Saturday home game, playing on Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
Your road games, 10 in the morning, 6 at night. Just from a preparation standpoint, getting guys ready, is that a little bit more of a challenge this year just because you're all over the map that way?
Arch, I think so. I think particularly, quite honestly, the herky-jerky part of playing 3 games in really 2 months. You know, we went August and September and really had 3 games. We played our 4th game after 2 months of football. Now we're going to play 9 games, right? 8 games or 9 games in 2 months instead of 3 games. But it was almost too much time in a way. You know, where I actually am more comfortable, let's crank this thing and let's go now. Let's get on a rhythm and let's go play. And I think the players feel the same thing. So in some ways, you know, playing this game on Friday and let's go and let's get ready and play and let's have great tempo and let's go, I kind of like for us now instead of having drag things out a little more on the early part. It's been a little bit different. It really has. It really has been a little bit different for us.
You vote in the coaches poll? I'm sorry.
No.
You vote, you don't?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I don't.
Anything else?
Now, you guys saw Brian Harson's press conference when the phone was ringing, right, after the Utah State game. Did any of you guys see that? And I think the girl's name was Julie. Called 4 times, and he had the phone right here. And eventually he just picked it up and said, hello? Julie? Hold it, let me. Reporter's girlfriend called 4 times during the press conference. You guys need to get that video. Okay, get that video. All right, guys.